Look, when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, we don't trust him at all, and his government and his state. We have a long experience with undermining and sabotaging agreements with the Palestinians, not only with Hamas. I'm talking about decades of sabotaging agreements with the Palestinians and even with other countries, which has already signed with Israel the so-called normalization agreement.
Praises for our President Donald J. Trump is coming in from all over the world. The last place you would think to be hearing praises for our President Donald J. Trump is from Hamas. Let's watch this clip together and we'll discuss it afterwards. Kindly subscribe to our channel so a little bit of light will push away a lot of darkness.
Yes, I believe without the personal interference of President Trump, after giving Netanyahu the chances one after one to fulfill or to finish the job, and he failed at the end to finish the job according to his criteria, the so-called absolute victory, without the personal interference of President Trump. In this case, I don't think that it would happen to reach this end, the end of the war. Therefore, yes, we thank President Trump and his personal efforts to interfere and to pressure Israel to make an end of this massacre and slaughtering.
You have also called on President Trump to ensure that the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, sticks to its obligations. Do you trust that President Trump will do that and will continue the pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu?
Look, when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, we don't trust him at all, and his government and his state. We have a long experience with undermining and sabotaging agreements with the Palestinians, not only with Hamas. I'm talking about decades of sabotaging agreements with the Palestinians and even with other countries, which has already signed with Israel the so-called normalization agreement. Therefore, yes, we believe and we hope that President Trump continue to interfere personally and to exercise the maximum pressure on Netanyahu to fulfill its obligation, first as according to the deal, and second according to the international law as an occupying power. Because I think without this pressure, without this personal interference from President Trump, this would not happen.
How will you ensure that the fighters, the Hamas fighters in Gaza, will abide by this ceasefire as well and won't trigger a breakdown of this ceasefire?
I have no doubt that they will stick to the deal and fulfill their obligations accordingly. I hope that the Israelis will do this.
Just to be clear, that the Trump plan does say that Hamas will have no role in governing the future of Gaza. So you can confirm then that your role as Hamas is over?
Look, Yalda, and I have to be honest with you and with your audience, and I have always be very open and frank in answering questions. Therefore, yes, we are ready to hand over government. We are ready to be totally away from any government or governing body. But when it comes to Hamas as an entity, as a Palestinian liberation movement, I think no one can overcome or exclude Hamas. Hamas is also present in the West Bank. Hamas is present in Jerusalem, in the diaspora. Therefore, Hamas is not only the government in Gaza. And therefore, yes, we are ready to leave the government for a Palestinian body, but we are still there on the ground.
And what about disarming? Because you're talking about a political ideology, but there's also calls for Hamas to completely disarm itself. Is that something that Hamas is willing to do?
First of all, I have said all other points except the issues or topics related to the first phase, end of the war, withdrawal, prisoner exchange and aid, This is part of the second or third, I don't know how many phases, but this has to be discussed, and this question is belonging to these phases, and this has to be discussed with all other Palestinians about the future of our strategy to struggle for freedom and independence. Up to that point, first, no one can deny us the right to resist by all means, including armed resistance. We can offer any other modality like a hudna or a ceasefire for 5, 6, 7, 10 years where arms are stand still. We can think with other Palestinian resistance movement, with Arabic countries, with Islamic countries, how to guarantee a period of 5, 10 years, a time, space to found the Palestinian state. But what we have said many times,
so just to be clear,
our
though,
weapons
are
going to be handed over only to the hands of a Palestinian state. And our fighters can be integrated into the Palestinian National Army. Before that, no one has the right to deny us the right to resist the occupation by all means.
Now you're saying you don't want to and you will not disarm.
If you ask it directly, yes, we are not going to be disarmed as long as we are not sure that this will lead by any other means to have an independent self-sovereign state which is able to defend itself. Second, there are other modalities. By the way, if the question, this question is again unfair question. This question has to be directed to the aggressor, to the criminal who committed the genocide, as you have done with the Nazis after the World War II. Therefore, it has.
Dr. Bassem, this is part of the deal, though. This is written very clearly as part of Donald Trump's 20-point plan.
We are not part of the whole deal. We have accepted the first phase, which is including end of the war, prisoner exchange, withdrawal, and aid. The rest of the points is belonging to the whole Palestinian political arena and all other factions. They have to discuss it together and to find ways how can we move forward by our struggle for freedom and independence. During this time, we can find a lot of modalities to have to lie our weapons down, to have a ceasefire, 5-10 years, to have a truce, to have any way of controlling this portfolio. But again, this is a genuine right of Palestinian people, and no one can deny us. If this question has to be directed, it has to be directed to the aggressor, and he has to be disarmed. His nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons, which has been already used in the Gaza Strip and other areas during this war.
What about an interim political force made up of the likes of, and including the role of former British Prime Minister Tony Blair? Have there been discussions around that, and would you be open to welcoming them governing Gaza?
First of all, I am very sad every now and then to hear such proposal, because I am sure that Palestinians, after 100 years of struggling against the British mandate and the Israeli occupation, they are mature enough to rule themselves. But when it comes to Tony Blair, former Prime Minister, unfortunately, we Palestinians, and I'm sure Arabs and Muslims and maybe a lot of people around the world, they have very, very bad memories about him. We still remember his role in killing, on causing the killing of thousands or millions of innocent civilians in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We can remember very well, after destroying Afghanistan and Iraq, he became, as a reward for his crimes, to be the head of the quartet, which was imposing the siege on the PA first in 2003, and the quartet conditions. And then on the government formed by Hamas in 2006, I think all Palestinians, not only in Hamas, not only in Gaza, have very bad and very negative image of him. And I don't believe that he will be very welcomed or will be a very positive input in this case. Again, Palestinians have a lot of independent technocratic cadres or leaders who can do the job in the best interest of the Palestinian people. To be honest, when I hear the name Tony Blair, I can say this could be Balfour Declaration 2 after 100 years. We are reviving some very bad memories of UK and British mandate. Therefore, he can be the second Balfour in this case.
Dr. Bassem, I want to ask you about the strike in Qatar, which hit one of your offices and it missed the people in the room. You were in the room. Just talk me through that moment and how you realized that the strike had happened and the fact that you weren't in the room that you were expected to be in.
Alhamdulillah, we are still alive. We have a new chance to continue our struggle for our people to reach their goals of independence and self-sovereignty. If we were killed at that moment, I am sure we are not more precious than thousands of our children, women, and innocent people killed by the Israelis.
Well, here you have it. You hear it clearly. Are these people that we can possibly think about a partner in peace? He made it very clear that Hamas is not disarming itself. But listen to his words about the aggressor and the genocide. What happened on October 7, 2023? Who breached a neighboring sovereign country? Who raped, murdered, decapitated, burnt, shot, killed, tortured 1,200 innocent, beautiful human beings? Who did that? Who was the hands that did that? And was so proud of it to live stream it on a GoPro cams? Can you unsee the picture of the Bibas babies, the two beautiful redhead kids? Mother clenching there. Can we ever see that? Can we unsee the women being dragged into the Jeep, being dragged away, the anguish on their faces? These innocent, beautiful people woke up a Saturday morning. They went to sleep the night before, expecting to wake up and live another day. And they were murdered, tortured within hours. They bound families together and put them on fire. They put babies in ovens in front of their parents. They killed parents in front of their children. The most hideous barbarism than anyone could have imagined. These aren't exaggerations. This is real life. There's real live footage that Hamas live streamed. We have the footage. We've seen it. We have heard it. And they're calling Israeli the aggressors? The occupiers? Who's occupying what? Gaza has not allowed one Jew, one Israeli there since the year 2005. Not one. We're occupying Gaza? Gaza was surrendered, given away to the Palestinians to do something with it. It's a most beautiful potential coastal town. They could have created like a French Riviera out of it. They could have turned that part of land of Gaza and turned it into a beautiful state, a beautiful country. If they would have taken the billions of dollars that the world gave them and turned it into their infrastructure and building humanity, homes and schools and hospitals and treatment centers and an economy, they could have been a thriving, successful society. So who's occupying what? There was not one Israeli in Gaza since 2005. For 20 years, Gaza was not occupied by any Israeli. They didn't allow us to go there. Talking about apartheid, they wouldn't allow a Jew and Israeli to step foot into Gaza. So no one is occupying anything. They took the billions of dollars, and instead of using it to the benefit of the Palestinians, as they call them there, they used it to create a terror country, to a state of horror, a state of death. That's where those billions of dollars went. I mean, how naive, how gullible was the world by pouring in billions of dollars and not seeing any infrastructure, not seeing anything happen in Gaza other than pain and suffering. So the world needs to realize what Israel has been up against for all these years. For 77 years since Israel has returned to their homeland, they have thrived and succeeded in building a beautiful country. How far did Gaza get in the last 20 years? That's 2 decades. What have they done with Gaza? Have you found one bomb shelter in Gaza for the civilians to take cover? Or have you found 400 miles of terror tunnels? A subterranean terrorist base. 400 miles. It's larger than the whole New York subway system. This is the evil, the darkness that Israel has to deal with. So now that there's a ceasefire, that's all it is. He's making it very clear there's no chance of peace. He's making it very clear that their mandate of Hamas is still very alive. And their mandate is to wipe out every single Jew. That Israel should never, ever have one Jew left living there. That is their mandate, and that hasn't changed. And they're not going to disarm itself. Even after this peace accord was accepted, they still are arming themselves. They're on the streets of Gaza right now, executing any suspicious collaborator with Israel. Just randomly killing Palestinians point blank because they are suspecting they are collaborating with Israel. And the world says nothing. The world is just silent about that. Mr. Douglas Murray, a very well-respected journalist from England, said something recently when he was talking about Hamas. He said, just imagine if there is, God forbid, a fire burning in your home. You would try to extinguish the fire, not 50% of the fire, not 60%, not 70% or 80%. Your goal is to extinguish 100% of the fire. And even some burning embers must be extinguished. Otherwise, the house is threat to go on fire again. How true those words are. If Israel and the world does not extinguish the fire of Hamas, they will be back. And they will, just like they promised after October 7, to repeat it again and again and again and again. Believe them, because they will do that. So I certainly hope that the world recognizes what Israel's up against and begin realizing that Israel is not the aggressor here. Israel did not start this war. And by the way, just as a side note, have you noticed the footage coming out of Gaza now? Do you see them jumping on the jeeps in the streets? Do you see any skeletons walking? Do you see any starving people? Do you see any emaciated people? I don't know. The footage that I see is a society that is very well fed. Just think about it next time you watch a video coming out of Gaza. They don't look like they just survived a famine, starvation. That was such a myth, such a lie, such an untruth, such propaganda, just literally a blood libel, as we call it. And yet the world bought into it. Just look at the next time you watch a video and draw your own conclusions. And take a look at all the restaurants that are open in Gaza and the supermarkets that are fully stocked. And what's this famine that the world bought into? Just like the word genocide, just throwing it around like that. If Israel wanted to do genocide, that would have happened on October 8th. The population of Gaza is growing and not diminishing. A genocide usually diminishes. But yet people love to throw those words out there just to try to make Israel look bad. Well, guess what? God knows the truth. And if you are smart enough, you know the truth also. Israel is not into genocide. In its all 77 years of existence, it never ever targeted civilians. Never. I challenge you to find me one case where Israel targeted civilians. And I will point out to you the numerous times, hundreds, if not thousands, and not even the times that we were able to prevent. But the Arabs and the Palestinians and Hamas have targeted civilians. Like a pizzeria in the middle of Jerusalem, innocent people are sitting down having lunch, blowing up. Buses blown up during the intifadas. Cars ramming into bus stops. Civilians. Stabbings at synagogues. Shooting innocent pedestrians in the cars. That's barbarism. And that is terror. And these are evil, dark people from a death cult that must be stopped. So we hope that the world realizes what we're up against. And instead of criticizing us, begins supporting us, saluting our efforts to preserve life, to promote life. This war that we've been through in these last 2 years was the hardest war ever, dealing with a subterranean warfare, above ground warfare, 7 different fronts. We're a tiny country, just 9 million people. And we had to persevere a 2-year war with an enemy that's used every guerrilla warfare, violated every war crime possible, trying to hurt as many civilians as possible. We lost 1,100 soldiers, most of them under age 21, who had a whole life ahead of them. Their lives were sacrificed to try to preserve the civilian life during this war. So let's pray and we hope that the tables will be turned around to its right place, that the world would side with Israel and the Jewish people and realize that we do have a right to exist. We do have a right to fortify our borders. We do have a right to defend ourselves. And we do have a right to continue on doing our mandate that God gave us to be a light unto the nations. God bless you. God loves you.